here we are. This is the Uncivilized Books podcast, and we're here with Keenan, Marshall Keller, and Tom Neely, the creators of the Humans series. Yeah, why don't you just introduce yourselves? Maybe Keenan start first. I kind of know Tom better than I know you. Actually, I know him a lot better. I've known him for a long time. But yeah, I'm curious to know a little bit more about you.
Right on. Hi, Keenan Marshall Keller, cartoonist. I'm writer, co-creator of The Humans in the Jungle with Tom. I've done previous comics and been self-publishing for, I don't know, like 15 years at this point, I believe, maybe longer. Yeah, was my first project with an artist as a writer. So that's how this started.
And Tom.
Yeah, Tom Neely, artist, co-creator of the Humans and the Jungle. Some of your audience might know me better from my work, like doing The Blot and The Wolf and earlier indie comics that I was self-publishing. But around 2013, Keenan and I joined forces to create this series, and we've been having a lot of fun with it. It's like, our exploration of exploitation cinema and genre fiction, crime, and having a lot of fun. So it's very different from my previous indie comics work, but it's, still fits in my wheelhouse, I think. So yeah.
Yeah, so how did this series come about in the first place? I mean, I pick up a lot of, influences to, kind of like 70s cinema, just kind of a general 70s vibe, maybe even 60s if you include the Vietnam War and those kinds of themes that run through the comic. So just kind of walk me through how this all started. How did you guys get together to do this?
I initially had an idea that like it was gestating for a while, just like the bare idea of the humans, but it was something that I had thought of like as a film script for a while, and then something I never thought I'd be able to get made. And or when I started doing comics, I never thought I'd be able to do it justice, drawing it. So I always just sat on it for several years. And then one day hanging out with Tom, he was just lamenting like indie comics was like, I feel like I might want to work with a writer and challenge myself and do like a monthly comic and do something different. And I was just like, well, before you go looking for somebody, I got an idea. And that was basically told me a basic bare bones idea. And he was just like, he got it instantly. He immediately was like, wait, hold on. Okay. And then he went home and drew a bunch of apes with biker jackets and motorcycles and shit that night. And we never looked back. So.
Basically, around 2012 or so, or 13, we were sitting around, and I was in like kind of a career pivot moment of like figuring out what I was going to do. Dylan from Sparkpile Comics had passed, and I had just gone through a divorce, so a lot of life changes going on.
Yeah.
So I was like, try to give like, mainstream comics or my attempt at that a shot and like make, try to be a full-time cartoonist. And so I had this, I was like, maybe I'll, hit up a bunch of writers and do an anthology comic. And then, yeah, Keenan was just like, well, what did you think of apes on bikes? And I was like, all right, that's all I want to do. That's what I want to draw. So we just went for it. Yeah, initially we started we were going to do it as a Kickstarter because we didn't think we'd have a chance at a big publisher. But somewhere in the mix, Image caught wind of it and approached us, and we ended up getting published by them, and that was kind of a wild ride that was really good initially, and then it kind of peters out after a while. I think the second volume came out in 2016, beginning of 2016, and I immediately almost, we already had the jungle started. Keenan was already starting to write it, so we were working towards that. So we already had a preview of this cover in the pack.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That looks very.
Kind of morphed into this cover here. So, it was already on the back burner, but it just took us a while to get there for various life reasons. And, yeah.
How did you get to the apes? Obviously, the first association that most people make is Planet of the Apes. I'm assuming both of you are probably big fans. And so, how did you sort of merge this sort of biker gang, kind of Easy Rider thing with Planet of the Apes? If that's even like a pitch or not,
No, no. I mean, originally the idea it's like I can't really separate the humans because I just when I first had the idea, I was going like I was thinking about genre in college while I was in film school, and I was like wanting to write a bunch of different genre scripts. And so I was like a biker film, and I was like, what would I do? And I just immediately, I don't know if it's the term ape hangers, I don't know if it's seeing Lancelot Link when I was a kid, but I instantly saw bikers that were apes, and then I was like, oh, Planet of the Apes biker idea, and it was just that. And it was immediately kind of all of the rules of the world fell into place, you know? And it's kind of like when I told Tom about it, he was like, "Oh, okay, I got it." Like he immediately understood where I was coming from, even though it seems like a lot of desperate parts pulled together, it congeals really easily. It makes sense to both of us at least. So that's why it was so easy to like collaborate on it and get into it.
So I didn't know you had like kind of a film school background. Can you kind of go into that a little bit? Like what's your trajectory from film to comics?
Well, it was from comics to film initially because as a kid I loved
Okay.
comics and they were like my first love. And then as I got older, I started liking film
And
and thought
what kind of stuff were you reading as a kid?
X-Men, Punisher, lots of Punisher when I'm like in 11, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, what the hell am I
Which
doing here?
Punisher is your Punisher? Like
War
which
Journal, man. Oh, like the first, was it Carl Potts and the first like 10 issues,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
are like the ones that I loved as a kid, some awful shit.
Was that Klaus Janson drawing those? I can't remember if that was
He might have inked some too. I don't
okay.
remember all.
Or is it wait, was it War Journal that was Jim Lee drawing mostly, I think, at least initially?
Some ones, yeah, it was like Jim Lee, and the ones that I really love, like issue 7 and 8, those are Jim Lee
Yeah,
issues.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyway, like, and then once I got older, I started looking towards film as more of like an artistic outlet. And I was writing a lot as a kid. And so I went to film school in Chicago. I went to Columbia College of Chicago, which is
Okay.
just, it was basically the big world's biggest open admission film school. So I filled out the paperwork and I got in and I went to film school there. And then it was the digital revolution happened right when I got there. So I went there to like edit on film and shoot film, and that was all gone my freshman year. So I was completely disillusioned with that whole shit by the time I got out of school. And when I came back to LA, I worked in film a couple of gigs and just like didn't want to do it. And so I started creeping back towards like other forms of artistic outlet. And I was drawing a lot and I just fell into comics because it was the thing I always thought about and loved.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell those stories with minuscule budget.
Yeah, yeah.
Tom, do you have like an apes trajectory? Like, I know both of you are like big fans of like various apes and comics as well, like the sort of the classic apes covers and from the 50s and 60s and things like that.
I mean, apes have always been a part of my life. When I was like 3 years old, my teddy bear was a monkey, not a teddy bear. It's like, so like I've always been fascinated with apes. Some of my first indie comics before the blot, self-published comics were all ape characters, but they were like more cartoony, more anthropomorphic, like Fleischer animation style comics that was like for like 30s cartoons, but all like monkey characters and stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, I have apes statues in my house. I don't know. There's apes been in my life my whole life. Finally said, apes on motorcycles. I was like, yeah, that just sounds awesome. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
why not?
When I
Yeah.
met Tom, he had a little wooden statue of like a monkey jester that had its hand out that would like you put your
Mm.
car keys on or whatever,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
would and
Yeah,
there's just
Jean-Luc, my butler.
John Luke. That
He stands by my front door in the house. He's been there for like
was
20 years.
That's nice. So how did you guys meet? Like first, like I'm assuming you must have known each other for a while before the series sort of
for a couple of
Around
years.
2010, I think.
Yeah, or 11, something like
okay.
that. We met
Yeah,
at a
at a really small,
questionable con. Yeah.
yeah, really weird convention, comics festival attempt called Slum Circus. That was
Hmm. I don't even know that
uh,
one.
an, a good attempt for a local guy to like try to put together something in his community, but it was also very strange. And not to put it down in any way, like I said, like it was this guy attempting to. I'm sorry, I forget his name, but he was attempting to like bring an indie comics kind of show to his community, and in LA, and he hired out. I guess he like rented out the neighborhood like after school programs rec house kind
Oh,
of
nice.
Just a
place.
big rec center.
Yeah, it was a place where like neighborhood kids get to go play basketball or like get tutoring after school and whatnot. And this he invited all of his like weird metalhead punk rock indie DIY comics friends to like have a festival there this one afternoon. And it was fun because like we met a lot of awesome artists
They had a great
and
lineup.
had a great time, but like it was at one point like there were like all these like 12-year-old kids come in like wanting to play basketball, but we were like standing in their basketball court with tables full of comics, and we're like, sorry, like so it was a kind of an ill-fated day, but it was also really fun, and it was kind of the origin of us meeting. We had met a bunch of other awesome artists that day too.
Ruben Splatterbeast,
Yeah, Splatter Beast.
Jose, yeah, Alex Chu,
Yep.
a
Nice.
bunch of people were at this thing, and it was really cool. And I met Tom and went up, and I was like, oh, I'd seen Henry Ingran, of course. Like, I don't know if I'd been at like secret headquarters or somewhere. I was like, oh, I've seen this around. That's cool. You did this? I was like, yeah, and we just hit it off, and I bought a couple comics off of him, and then he came over to my table and bought a couple of my comics, and then we found out we lived really close to each other. We're like, oh shit, you live like 8 minutes away, 5 minutes away from me, and so we just started a friendly acquaintance then. Then I
Yep.
think I don't remember, I think we smoked dope in the alleyway because nobody was there
Yeah. Yeah. It
too.
was
So it's
like
like, yeah, we like hung out and it was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. This guy's nice, and we started hanging out. The funniest thing about that event though was that they had a DJ and a live drummer who like every hour would play for like 15 minutes, but we're in a giant gymnasium and there's nobody in it except for the
it was
tableless.
like
It's like
cacophony
hitting
of
us in the
noise, just
face,
like
like
eating your brain.
scratching and like and it was just like so fucking loud and awful. It was pretty. By the second time or third time it happened, we were all just dying with laughter. We are just cracked.
Sounds amazing. Sometimes these small shows is like kind of like you just, even though nobody actually buys anything, you make some really connections for life,
Yeah,
Yeah.
traded a lot. Didn't make a single sale, but traded like
I've had many of those. Keenan. So I know, so you said you did draw some comics before the humans. So were you more like an artist? Did you see yourself more as an artist at first or for a while, or just kind of doing everything, kind of the classic indie cartoonist that sort of has to write his own stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I came from the same vein of thinking as I did when I went into film school. Where it was like, I want to make my own little ideas. So it was always like, yeah, writing, drawing. But before I was fully into comics, I had also been a part of a gallery in LA where I was curating at this place, Showcase, for a year and a half with a couple other people. And it was a pretty fun space. But at that point, yeah, I was more focused on art. And that's when I started working on the first comic I ever drew, Galactic Breakdown. And I think it was the first comic I ever drew. I was like 30 years old, I think, when I started it. So, or 29.
And actually, I actually found Galactic Breakdown before I met Keenan. So I'd seen the first issue in a store. I was like, "Oh, you published this?" And he's like, "I drew it." And I was like, "Oh, you're a fucking weirdo. Like, I want to be your friend." And then like, but also before I met him, I remember being at secret headquarters for an art show, and Johnny Ryan and I were both like geeking out over Galactic Breakdown #1. We're like, "What is this? This is like the weirdest thing we've seen in a while." And Johnny Ryan was like going off on it, and so we were both became fans of Keenan instantly. So,
Nice.
and then I met him like I think Slum Circus was like maybe a month later or so.
How did you transition away from sort of doing the art, I guess, and being more of a writer? Or I don't know, maybe you still do art. I don't know if that's
I do both. I write. It's about the projects and the artists. Like the opportunity to work with Tom is a great opportunity. He's a really awesome cartoonist and he can do a lot in the with visual language. And so my whole idea is like, well, if I got an opportunity to like work with a good friend who's also like an amazing artist, I'm gonna take it. So that's how the writing started because I never thought I was ever just gonna like write for an artist. I never thought any artist would like give me the time of day to even be put in that position. So, and then that led to me working with Alex Delaney on Vengeance is for the Living, and it's the same thing. Like as an artist, he's amazing, and he's also a great guy. So it was just an easy thing to like, okay, I'm gonna write this, and he's gonna draw it. it's more about the collaboration. I have ideas that I write that I probably will never draw because I don't have the chops. I'm also not actively looking to get those made. I'm always looking to if there might be an artist to work with, but I'm
Right.
not actively out there trying to like pitch a new script, you know.
Yeah.
And you've published self-published two full graphic novels in the last like 4 years. You're always active making, Scumbag for Hire is a great weird ass book that grew out of COVID shutdown that he made. That's really awesome. He's more prolific than me because I've become a slow ass artist in my old age. I'm slowing down, and he just keeps speeding up now that he only draws in pencils. So.
But yeah, it makes it a lot easier, you know.
Yes, you're a penciler. You're a penciler now.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's it. You're a pencilist.
Denounced me.
So how does the collab go? Like, do you write like full scripts for Tom to draw? Is there some kind of like collaborative thing? Is it Marvel style? You just draw kind of like you just write up some vibes and Tom goes with it. How does the collaboration kind of work?
Like our own style because I'll write like a film script with maybe some extra details in certain parts, maybe some like direction towards Tom occasionally. But most of the time I'm trying to like paint a picture thinking that I have an idea of where Tom might take it. And then Tom will go and break down the whole script and do his breakdowns and thumbnails. And then we talk about it sometimes. We'll make like some adjustments here, or if Tom's been like, I extended this part because it makes the break happen or the beat happen better, there's always a reason.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how the collaboration works, because it's about Tom telling the story too, it's not about me digging up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that. Yeah, for like the breakdown of each of the storytelling, it kind of works out that he writes more of a screenplay, and there's no like page breakdowns or layout breakdowns or anything. That's all for me to figure out. And then, also like, but back further back, like, the initial idea and the plot was all Keenan's, but like a lot of the characters we got to develop together because we were early in the stages. So he'd be like, oh, I've got this idea for Carnes. And then, like, we'd throw around ideas and like, we get to like kind of mesh to like create the world together, or like even that he set it in Bakersfield initially, and but he had the rival gang, the Scabs, and I was like, oh, they should live in Oildale, which is a suburb of Bakersfield that's way shittier than Bakersfield. So like it's like
Yeah, I was like,
so
I didn't know
we
that. Great.
collaborated on a lot of the world building and the character building together, but then like the story is all his, and then I kind of become more of an editor or the director of the film, and that I like break it down and figure out how it works and piece it together. And then when I have moments where I want to add something that I think would be good or change something, I'll do a quick pencil it out and like take it to him and be like, what do you think of this? And he'll write extra dialogue where needed or whatnot, and then we'll insert that in the story. And then there's other parts that I've, especially in the original series, that I unfortunately had to cut because of
Yeah, we
length of
front page.
issues on the monthly schedule. We only had like 26 pages per issue to work with. Whereas the jungle, we've been able to expand on that. Whereas, like, no offense, Keenan, you do not know how to cut yourself down. When I ask you to write something short, he'll give me like 3 pages. And I'm like, I wanted 2 paragraphs. You gave me 3 pages. So like, I have to. But in the original series, The Humans, I had to do a lot of cuts, so like cutting down stories to just make things fit. And then in the jungle, I had the time and the space to just not cut things, just expand that and let the story breathe as much as it would. So that's how, like the jungle, first issue is like 46 pages, the
Yeah.
second issue is 42. They're all oversized. I think the first 5 issues of the jungle is more pages than all of the humans' 10 issues combined.
Yeah.
So
So speaking of the sort of the image series, did you have like an editor you worked with that had sort of like guided you at all, or was it just kind of all you
it
guys and
was
had to kind of just keep a certain page count and that was that?
It was kind of like de facto us working together to edit it, and then David Brothers at Image was helped us a lot of with proofreading because we're both, a little bit bad at spelling and grammar sometimes. And he was a, huge shout out to David Brothers for helping us along the way. He was awesome, not just as a proofreader, but just as a good friend and helper along the way at Image. She was probably one of him and Bronwyn were probably the two of the coolest people we met there. So us editing ourselves as we went.
So the world it's set in is it, to me reads kind of like early 70s, late 60s. Certain things are very similar to our world, like the Vietnam War happened there as just as it has happened here. And then other things are not, which, that's your, it's your universe. You get to do whatever you want with it. In the second volume of The Humans, there's that sort of convoy, kind of Mad Max convoy battle that happens. So it seems like there's areas that are kind of like no-go areas, sort of held by gangs and things. Like how much of that stuff did you guys figure out like in advance, like how that world kind of works? So I guess I'm curious about the world building. Like, is there something you're kind of like trying to telegraph through setting it in that time frame?
Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like the time frame's kind of important for the type of story we're trying to tell. And once we're dealing with genre and we're jumping into a idea of a biker genre point, there's certain things, you take it out of this time, it loses a lot. I was not interested in doing a wow, what's that fucking TV show? Sorry, what's that FX TV show, Tom?
Oh, I know what you mean.
Anarchy.
Huh?
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
wasn't
right,
interested
right,
in
right.
doing anything like that from the start. The time period allowed for style.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
with Tom, like with what he does, then he got to really jump into that. And the whole idea is like it is like our history, except for the dynamics changed where apes are the highest on the chain, evolutionary chain.
Hmm.
And everything else is basically the same, except for turned up a notch in like hyperly violent, right? So there's drug hijacking that happens all over all the
Hmm.
time, but it might not be to the extent at which we portrayed it. But that's because we want to make a fun ass comic. And then the whole idea was like, well, if we're gonna do this, we should go a little, Mad Maxy with it. Like we,
Yeah, it's part of
right?
like the fun of like playing with our influences. Like, it starts with like Planet of the Apes and Wild Angels and Easy Rider and biker films of exploitation. But yeah, the ape planet aspect of it just allows everything to turn the knobs up to 11 and be crazier. So like immediately I was like, yeah, this isn't just like a standard bikers on the highway chasing each other. I was like, I want people like jumping through the sky and like I wanted to be more Mad Max. And it was funny, like I actually drew that issue about 6 months before Mad Max Fury Road, the beginning of the new story arc
Right, right,
came
right.
out, and then the issue dropped like 2 weeks after the movie
Right
hit
Oh
theaters.
man.
So people were like, oh, they're just doing their Mad Max rip. I was like, no, I drew this 6 months ago. Like I hadn't seen the
We've been
movie.
talking about this for a while before.
But it was like a weird little kismet of like, yeah, the
Oh,
movie coming out right when that issue came out.
No, I think yeah, it's a great mix. When I look at it, I sort of think of some of the later Apes movies, like what is it, like Battle for the Planet of the Apes, where
Oh
they are
yeah.
like very much, they have all kinds of equipment and vehicles and things. Here's the Planet of the Apes 100 years in the future, where it like evolved as human-like society with similar technology
If
and
you read the original French novel for Planet of the Apes, it is more of a futuristic society of apes. They have
oh, interesting.
cars and
they're like
cities and
contemporary.
everything.
It's like contemporary.
I think it was a budgetary reason for the movie that they made them more archaic so they could just like not deal with designing ape vehicles. But yeah, the French novel, they're like much more futuristic. So it was,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
interesting. Yeah, I never read the novel. I should read
yeah,
that.
the first one was an original novel. There's three more novels that are based on the movies,
Right, right,
and those
right.
are fun too. But the original one was an original sci-fi story.
Yeah, I know about the French one. I just never read it. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
it's good.
If any of the movies are like Conquest is probably the thing that would directly Lizard Brain have influenced the idea the most, probably because it's about the uprising of them and the whole slave labor thing, and that's why we put the humans as slave labor in our,
Right.
world. The skins are, they were, that probably is where that comes from. Yeah, I really do like those last two movies too.
Yeah, those are super fun. Yeah, and the
You know,
TV series was great too.
The TV series? I never, did I
Yeah,
ever?
there was a live action and an animated TV series. And
I
the
didn't watch the
animated TV
animated, but
series was
yeah.
pretty subpar, but the opening intro sequence is awesome bit of psychedelic
I
animation.
gotta
It's
watch
really
that. Yeah, that
beautiful.
sounds
Yeah,
cool.
we always wanted to lift it for the humans cartoon if that ever was to happen.
Gotta
Yes.
make that happen.
Yeah.
One thing that I really enjoy about the and I don't know, I don't know if this is Tom's idea or yours, Keenan, but if you watch the movies, there's kind of the apes are obviously just humans in suits, and there's a lot of charm in that, but they can also can't do ape-like things, And what I enjoy about the humans is that there's a lot of like they still have their kind of like ape toes, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they do all kinds of ape things that humans wouldn't be able to do. So like in that convoy battle, for example, there's that what is it that like orangutan like hangs from the window and is like shooting,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a great sequence. I was kind of like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah,
Would never
those are my
happen either
favorite.
on Mad Max or in Planet of the Apes.
It was something
Yeah.
like we talked about too, because Tom sketches, like at one point he was like, yeah, what do I do with the feet? What do I do with the faces? Like, how does he, and he was just going through ideas. Then once he drew a couple where, yeah, we like see the feet gripping like the pegs on the motorcycle or something. He's like, wait a second, like that's like totally, He's like, yeah, any action scene, he's gonna amp up the simian nature, and it's
To further that, it's fun when it gets to like once we had some fans following it, and some people were like, "Oh, I like the way you draw the women," and then I wanted to really make the women's feet like even grosser, like this. It's like, oh yeah, hot ape lady, but look at her feet; they look like this.
I know it's kind of disturbing to see all the all the weird human ape ladies with giant feet and
Yeah,
hot ape chicks.
and ape dudes.
The other thing that I really enjoy about the series, and I guess this is maybe more to Tom, but is some of the callbacks that you have to more like classic cartoonists. It kind of shows that your evolution as an artist kind of coming more from the indie scene maybe than
Hmm.
just kind of being in the more kind of Marvel DC zone. Although I know that you like a lot of that stuff as well. Yeah, I don't know if I know I see some original pages here. I don't know if those are handy, but I really like that sequence in Jungle 2, for example, which was still forthcoming. Looks kind of like a Frank King
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
reference with the working double spread with like the small panels that
Yep,
look
that's definitely a Gasoline Alley
yeah.
Frank King thing. And actually, I will
family
pull up
circle,
some visuals.
What's
Uh,
that?
family
we'll pull
circle.
that out.
Yeah, yeah, Family Circle. You could see it that way too.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
love
the
that. Yeah,
original,
Latrine Alley. Yes.
the top panel didn't make it into the issue because
Oh, that's cool.
I called it Latrine Alley instead of Gasoline Alley. I've explained this a few times, but like often when I get to a scene where Keenan has written too much for like two or three pages, I'd be like, okay, this scene would be like 8 pages, or I could make a double page spread where everything's happening at once,
Right,
and
right,
I
right.
can make it work as like that's part of my editing is like figuring this out. So like, it's became a staple of the Humans series to like do these like double page sequences that are like
Yeah,
immersive. Of course, I love Frank King and Gasoline Alley, and it was like my excuse to like play with that
yeah, we gotta somehow find a way to get those top panels in somewhere so people can see
idea.
them. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that they were there.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked that up. But yeah, there's a lot of that stuff sprinkled in here and there. I mean, even if in the original series, a lot of references to S. Clay Wilson and Spain Rodriguez and some of the actual, the original actual biker comic artists. But
Painter
even
Brothers.
like, there's even references to like Caravaggio and shit that I throw in. Like, I'm just like a geek for art history, and sometimes I get stumped for a layout, and I look towards comics and art history for a helper, and then it becomes too fun to not like pay a little homage here and there when I can. I know
I
everybody does that as swipes, but it's not for me. It's not swiping. It's more of I genuinely want to like call out your attention to this amazing artist of the past that I love. If anybody like reads The Jungle and finds out about Gasoline Alley through this, that's awesome to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I don't see them as swipes. It's, swipes are more kind of direct lifts, where this feels like I mean, there's never going to be a gasoline alley like this. To me, it's definitely very much an homage. Yeah, Keenan, do you have any like besides the sort of the film kind of influences? Do you have any literary influences or anything that you would like to talk about? Anything that sort of like informs some of the stuff you're writing here?
Yeah, I mean, for the humans directly in the jungle, I mean, yeah, Danny Lyons, the bike riders, it's a photography book, and that's one
Mhm.
of the first things I gave Tom. I handed him when I was like giving him a bunch of reference stuff when we first started. It's just a journal essay about biker gang, and then with photos that he took, and the photos were really it was about getting a certain grittiness, a certain like even though we're going to amp it up and make it a total unreal thing, we wanted to capture a certain reality to the type of person and the look and the feel of a biker at that time. So that was literary. That was a big one. Yeah, and then for the jungle, it's just like an absorption of like all sorts of I mean, I could even say like Tardy as a crime comic creator, like storytelling, how he gets about getting to the point. I I I would say there's maybe some of that too, but the majority of what the humans comes from is kind of like me and Tom geeking out together. The whole thing when he talked about us doing a Kickstarter, thinking we are going to do a Kickstarter before Image, that was like a year plus where we went over stuff, talked about details, talked about how onomatopoeia has to be a big part. Like we want to make everything cartooning to an extreme. We want to use every avenue to make this a comic, not a movie or TV pitch.
Mhm.
Like we were really, and we got to hone in on the characters. Like we went through a lot of design, and Tom really got to like flesh out like the fashion of the world, which just really helps bring it all together too. But that was the moment, I'd have a hard time pulling more influences just because, yeah, all that shit and then just me and Tom in a bar for a year talking about it.
Yeah, it all just gets kind of like absorbed and it's hard to kind of know where like you and the influence ends, like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's how it is with me for sure. Here's one of the double spreads that's amazing. Yeah, that's what I was really, like as I kind of like followed the series, the double spreads get more and more impressive, like it's a really it just gets more impressive every time I see a new spread from yours, What I didn't know, and this is kind of interesting, is that basically this is, to compress long storytelling by Keenan,
Yeah.
which is funny, but it's also like it's a great opportunity to do something really interesting visually.
I was just gonna say it was purposeful for the second series because when Tom had done it in the first series, he had done lots of splashes and spreads that were like really got a good response from people all the time. So going into this one, he was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do more," and I was like, "Yeah, do more."
Yeah.
Like, it was like very purposeful because I feel it's a very good comic book storytelling tool, right? Like it's always impressive to see that much work across 2 pages, as long as it's done well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this one that in issue one of the Jungle is like Keenan had actually written almost like what it would have been probably like a 12-page courtroom scene into the original script. And I was like 12 I tried to break it down the way he wrote it and it was going to be like 10 pages at least. And I was like it's a little
Initially,
bit long, so I think I wanted to like scrunch it down and get all the beats into one thing to like let's get this book moving. So we edited out a lot of the courtroom scene and we talked about doing it as an issue zero.
yes. Originally, it was supposed to be. I'd written that all to be a prequel zine that was supposed to come out before as
Right.
the courtroom. And then Tom was like, "No, put everything in. Don't be editing anything out." And then I did, and he was like, "What is all of this?"
Yeah,
So, and I was like, "Yeah,
so
yeah."
we
And okay, we'll just tighten it up and cut it all out and just do like charges and like do some. I was like, "Great, that's great. Okay."
we figured out sort of a montage of the like just to like bring you back and drop you off into the without bogging you down with too much courtroom before you get into the prison. And also, like I wanted to point out with this one, so the first 10 pages, I was gonna letter everything separately and then paste it in. So all my lettering was done separately like that, and then I used post-it notes to place it.
Mm.
So to figure out my layouts. But then by the time I got to, so let me show you. I had to have the lettering on the pages. It was bugging me too much to not have all
Mm.
my lettering on the actual pages. As a cartoonist, for me, it's harder to do the panel layouts without having the balloons in place. I don't know. It's just like I know I was thought it was interesting. Some might be interesting to some people that I was doing it
Yeah.
separately before. As a lot of, I mean, most cartoonists do their artwork without lettering these days in the
Yeah,
mainstream.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
but I couldn't do it. I couldn't hack it. I have to have the lettering on the page.
Yeah, no, I have the same problem as a cartoonist. Like, I have a hard time just having no text, just kind of drawing everything, because then the text placement becomes actually kind of difficult later on. Like sometimes,
Yeah,
and it just kind of breaks the flow a little bit.
yeah, I agree.
What was the choice to kind of like go without the text first, and then
Well,
go, and then
initially,
yeah.
it's because we were editing down that whole sequence,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's like leaving it open to come back to me and be like, "What about here? Is this good here? Is this good enough at it?" And it
Yeah,
was the only way to cut it down like that. And then he was like, "I'm gonna do this for the whole thing," because he thought it would be maybe faster, but for
Right.
Tom, it's faster just to do it.
yeah, it's much faster to do it on the page and makes more sense to me than
Get to your
having
brain.
to paste it in later. Plus, I mean, honestly, like,
And the pages.
like page like this, there's like I ended up with like huge word balloons covering up like this guy and
Yeah,
this
yeah,
guy. And it's like, well, I drew all these guys that aren't going to be in here now.
Yeah, yeah.
The word balloon over them. So it's like,
yeah,
why
yeah,
not have the word balloons in place? It just makes more sense in my brain as a designing the page. I was trying to experiment with it because a lot of cartoonists do work this way, especially with like lettering the way it's done in mainstream being all typesetting instead of lettering
yeah.
anyway. Um, yeah, I thought I'd experiment with that. I didn't like it. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's always the danger is like when you draw something and then, you just have to cover part of it because the balloon just has to go there and there's like no other place. Otherwise the reading order will be wrong or something. And then
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
it sucks to kind of have to cover up a good chunk of a good drawing too. So yeah, so that was probably a good call because like, this is not a Perry Mason book. This is the courtroom scene probably was good that it was cut down to 2 pages. I don't know. It would be kind of interesting to see a kind of a courtroom drama with the humans.
We wanted to draw it like I wanted to do it like actual courtroom sketches and
Yeah,
pastels
we
and
wanted
stuff,
Oh,
pastel.
okay, okay,
but I
yeah,
just figured it would take too long.
yeah.
So I yeah.
It was great. That's too my horn, but it's pretty fun. But no,
Yeah.
to start off the issue, that was the reason why it wasn't a part of it to begin with. Like it's just a lot to get through. So just doing the recap made it. And then once we came with the idea where Tom was like, "Yeah, we can just do color for the first couple pages and we'll fade it out." That worked
Yeah,
perfectly with that whole sequence.
cool,
Yeah,
cool.
that was all inspired by just like manga. I love, our love of manga and being like, well, it was also inspired by not having Christina anymore. She dropped out of comics almost halfway through the Humans.
Okay.
And then we were going back and forth about whether we wanted to do color or black and white or whatever, but then it just like made sense like let's just make the outside world color and then once you get in prison, it becomes black and white.
Yeah,
And then once we were with you with Uncivilized and you're willing to do magazine size, we were like, oh, this fits even better into our both our love of like Conan and like all Savage Sword of Conan and all those books of the 70s. And we're like, yes, now we can have fun with like zipatones and everything and like really immerse ourselves in the black and white magazine world, which also kind of makes sense in the trajectory of the Humans time frame that like the original series is the end of the 60s, break point of the 70s, and then, this series basically begins in the 1970
This is
72 era of the ape world. So
a hot spot for comic magazines, actually, right
yeah,
there.
no, exactly. That's kind of what it all started.
it's all meta, guys.
Observation.
We've thought all that. We've talked way too much. We might
But
not tell you all we thought about, but we've thought about a lot of things.
cool. I love. I mean, I love the magazine size. It's a. I mean, I have so many of those old like Conan magazines, the various Warrens, etc. It's such a great format for comics. There it is. I'm still amazed, like however big the magazine size is, I'm still amazed how much bigger your originals are.
I know.
It's a massive size. That's like that's bigger, I mean this is what, like is it 2x? Is it roughly tw twice the size?
Yeah,
Or
these are 15 by 20 sheets of paper.
okay.
And the drawing space is roughly 12 and a half by 19.
Because that's still significantly larger than like your standard comic book art.
Yeah, so for reference, standard comic book artboard is 11 by 17. There's
Yeah,
my fake
that's a
Batman
lot. Yeah.
page. But yeah, it's a lot smaller.
Yeah, I'm glad we could do the magazine format because it kind of it really highlights a lot of the detail you pop in there.
Yeah, he put all this work into these pages. Like I want to see him at their best. Right.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, tell me a little bit about some of the characters. So, some of the names are, people may recognize from like the comics world, the indie comics world. Are these characters based on these people, or do you just thought those names were good? And then, the other thing that I kind of wanted to sort of ask is, you don't really see this too much in comics these days, but I really love all the themes of, loyalty among the thieves, like sort of like brotherhood, loyalty, chivalry, but sort of in this, kind of gangster kind of milieu. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
I mean, that's cool you brought that up because nobody ever really brings that up. There's a little bit of like round table aspects to some of this, like but
Yeah.
the idea is like they have their own code. The humans are outside of everybody else's codes, whether it be normal societies or other bikers. They
Mhm.
do things their own way. That's why they'd have somebody like Carnes who's into skins, a part of their gang who would be ostracized from other gangs. And so yeah, it's just important. It's to give the characters some grounding, right? So we can
Mhm.
watch them do these things and care. Shit, Tom, what was the first part of that question though?
The names of the
Yes.
characters.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, yeah. That just comes from our love of our fellow cartoonists. And so some of the characters have maybe aspects of their personality that might relate, but they're not in any way an indictment on the people.
No, yeah.
Do not
No, it's
confuse
just
these characters with the
so
names.
like this is Mara,
Yeah.
named after Benjamin Mara, just because we love him.
Benjamin Marra's kind of a savage poet, and like
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
made him like the poet, good look. Also, Benjamin Marra's a good looking guy, pretty, poet artist of the group. He's the sensitive one. Nada, who is, that's his club name, but we really let people know in the first issue that Patalicio is his full name, and that's our
Mm.
good friend in Philadelphia, and he's there might be some similar characteristics to personalities, but they're very different. And then Carnes is based off Jason Carnes, who does the Fuckator series.
Mm.
And, we made him gnarly because Jason's gnarly, but we wanted to just touch on that. And Carnes is just such a, boss name too.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Yeah. And then in this series, though, like Thurber, his name is the name of the head guard. And that's after Matthew Thurber. And he's the nicest guy in comics. He's just a great artistic dynamo and an awesome individual. And we named him after the pretty boy, absorbed, narcissistic asshole prison guard, so that has nothing to do with him. I was just like, this is funny. And same with the warden is Jason T. Miles, and he's
Right,
a
right, right.
great writer, artist,
Yeah.
publisher, all sorts of shit. Yeah.
Great.
It's another one where it doesn't reflect the guy at all,
Yeah,
but
if
it's
you know Matthew Thurber, this is not him at all.
But do you think he would become that if he just had an ounce of power?
yeah, yeah, just a couple rounds of steroids and some horrible upbringing, maybe, but
Yeah, and I'm trying to find the warden.
it's just a fun thing, Not everybody catches it even. It took a while for people to catch some of them that have been in there forever,
Yeah,
but it's never out of hate or anything. It's always out of fun and
yeah.
love,
Jason T. Miles.
Yep, there he is.
So it's great to make him a warden. These are people that I've become friends with or have dealt with in my years of being doing independent comics and DIY and shit. So it's fun to just like drop little, notes to them in these comics.
It's fun to draw apes of our friends. Not that these characters are necessarily based off what they look like.
The other curiosity for me is like the Vietnam War part of the narrative. Obviously, it's sort of a big part of Johnny's life, right? and is fodder for a lot of what's going on. He definitely could have done a 70s, biker gang ape comic without the Vietnam War. So I'm just curious, like what the motivation is. Is there a story behind that?
To me, there's always a war, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
There's always a war. So in any time, it's something that you can relate to, whether you understand it completely or not. And the idea of a soldier coming home or somebody who's maybe been used by the state, right? And dealing with that emotionally and coming home to his real family. All those themes just seem to interweave well. So, yeah, kind of just came naturally with the genre once again, but also at the same time, it's just like for a character pinpoint to work from and play with, I think it was really good because, yeah, once Tom and I start talking about differences and the Vietnam War, we get to start to really open it up. And it's basically all about trauma, right? Everybody's life is just a series of dealing with, getting over, or avoiding trauma. So
Right, right, right.
this is his trauma that then leads to like why he makes the character decisions he does.
Yeah,
I
one
mean,
thing that I was thinking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is Vietnam War being sort of this kind of reviled war, right? Where there's no good guys, no bad guys. It's just kind of like everything is just carnage, sort of the classic apocalypse now kind of, it made me think of like, okay, here's this character who's, obviously maybe has certain values and things that he wants to uphold, goes to this war, but this war ends up not being able to do that there, so then this gang kind of provides him with this another way of sort of being a warrior in a sense, someone who has loyalty to certain ideas and ideals and things, even if it's this kind of debased gangster kind of environment,
That's kind of like the origins of biker gangs in general was that yeah, it goes back further to like World War One and World War Two of like soldiers coming back and feeling displaced and out of place in America and forming groups together of outsiders. Just as like I don't fit into this world anymore because I've been over there killing Nazis and now I don't know how to like live in 50s America. Kind of the birth of bikers and before they turned into like Sons of Anarchy Nazi assholes. Like the
right.
beginning was like just, people with PTSD trying to work their shit out by riding motorcycles.
No, that's really interesting. Yeah, no, I really resonated with that. It's like a, sort of like a warrior sort of without a war. So the war kind of has to kind of return home with him.
whenever there's a war abroad, there's a war at home too. It's just
Right.
when even if the population doesn't know it, there's always two fronts of the war,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So you're
yeah,
like hitting on the head right there with that
yeah.
completely.
No, it's cool. It's it sort of for sure kind of strikes a deep chord. At least for me, it did. Like it was one of my favorite kind of things about the book. So you've told me before that there is some kind of music component that's coming in the future. So what's the story with that? How did that come about? And when should we expect it?
Well, it started when like all the way back when Tom and I were first working on this, thinking we were going to self-publish it through Kickstarters, that we were like, oh, we want to do like a soundtrack of some kind, either a 7-inch or something. And then as we worked on the series and progressed, we realized, okay, well, we'll just do every issue we'll have 2 songs on SoundCloud. And through friends of my own and Tom's, like that we know so many people that are musicians, we started asking people. It kind of snowballed. So we got like so many original songs that we put out 2 7-inches. And I think it was 13 total songs over the course of the 10
No, I
issues.
think it was more like 26 total songs over 10.
Really?
We only had 10 songs, I mean, 2 songs per issue, but like it grew from there. We had the Battle of the Bands tour around 5 or 6, so we had like even more submissions and we chose a couple of winners and we had over 20 songs total. But like I think it was like yeah, more like probably 13 or 14 that were officially written for us. A few that were just like given to us because they're like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. We love you guys. We'll send you a song."
And we always wanted to like put these all out on a like full 12-inch vinyl record, but we could never make it happen. And then just recently we started working with Under the Gun Records, who are a local LA punk label, and they're going to help us put out the full soundtrack. So it's going to be at least 10 tracks, maybe 11. We're waiting on the last couple possible new tracks to add to it. So there's going to be at least 2 new songs
Yep.
on the soundtrack, but it'll be a full vinyl record with Tom painted the cover. It looks fucking great. And we're hoping to have it out at the same time as the book so we can, piggyback with both
Yeah.
of them. But I'm really
Yeah.
excited to have it out because it has the zigzags, smelly tongues, wizard rifle, just the shit. Damian Blaze did an original electronic song for us. It's fucking awesome.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's just really excited to finally get these all out. Yeah, there's the cover. That's the cover of the humans.
Yeah, that's gonna be the omnibus. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That
You're talking
cover.
about it coming out at the same time, and
Yeah,
this is the cover for the
that'll
record.
be the cover of the
Okay, cool,
record,
cool.
which is an homage to the issue zero cover that.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's perfect. Perfect for the time period as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we've just always, both of us are really influenced by music as much as comics and everything we do. So soundtrack thing was really something we set out from the start to do. And now it's full circle. We have the omnibus and a 12-inch soundtrack. It should be really,
One of the things that, that I noticed, sort of we're still kind of in the beginning of this new series. But I've had the comic at a few different shows and I noticed the sort of crossover between sort of punk rock biker culture type stuff and the humans, which maybe more so than many other comics. And I know you guys have told me that you've had some wild like biker fans. Maybe there's some good stories. It's always heartening to me that like comics can find a kind of a non-traditional comics audience.
Yeah.
Pretty rare actually, like what has the reception been like for, like what kind of new audience have you been able to connect with this comic?
I mean, that was definitely part of the fun of seeing what ha came of this was like we met a lot of people along the way when the Humans was coming out that said like I don't read comics anymore, but I have to read this, or like this is my favorite comic, or this brought me back to comics, or whatever. But then it was almost always like metalheads, punkers, bikers, weirdos that are just like, maybe the comics when they're younger, but they'd fallen out of it. We ended up we went to a few biker festivals, like motorcycle festivals
Yeah, yeah.
in California, and nothing too crazy. There was one where somebody got stabbed.
I mean, Tom, not
We
too
didn't
crazy.
we didn't
David
witness it,
Mann,
but somebody
no,
there was a gang brawl outside the art tent.
that was really awesome. Dave Mann's like famous biker painter, also a big influence on the humans, actually, for Tom and I both. Yeah, at his biker con. Yeah, while we were inside with all the art, we walk outside and it's just a dust pool everywhere. We're like, what the fuck happened? It's like, oh, there's just stabbing. Like 4 or 5 people got stabbed. And everybody's just like going back eating corn dogs and
And
shit,
then
bleeding.
everybody was like, they said you're not supposed to wear your colors here, so they got in a
So we
fight.
stabbed him.
It's like I had my fake humans vest on. I was like, I took it off, put it under the table. It's like, not
Yeah.
gonna walk around with that anymore. I might get stabbed.
But the show itself was actually rad because we met a bunch of bikers that were actually into the comic
Yeah,
and
yeah.
got to see their bikes and even worked a couple of like components from people's bikes into the
Yes.
comic. So we're like,
We
oh,
got
that's
invited to a few private motorcycle parties. One of them which we drove up to and left immediately. And then
yeah.
after that, when we got invited to him, we were like, yeah, we're not going to go to that.
We've been invited to like meet an old president of the Hells Angels once too.
The president of Hell's Angels, Barber, was apparently a big fan of ours. He would come
Invited
by our booth at San Diego and buy everything, and he kept wanting us to come meet the
He
president of
wanted us to
Hell's
throw a
Angels.
party at his barber shop, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds cool." But then he was talking about like real members and stuff. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Okay. I mean,
And we're like,
that's cool. That's not really what we're doing. I mean,
cartoonists. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just a nerd.
but it has been great. Like Tom said, I can't remember. I mean, it's been dozens and dozens of people that told us that we either got them back into comics or this is the first comic they've read in a decade. And I don't know how, but we were reaching an audience that isn't usually gotten to by comics.
A combination of music and word of mouth because Instagram wasn't like destroyed by algorithms at the time 10 years
Yeah.
ago, and you could spread the word pretty well back then. But yeah, it was interesting like how many people outside of comics latched onto us, which kind of like led us to like when I was talking to you, Tom, last year about Uncivilized, and it was like the subscription service and like being able to order directly from you. It seems like was part of the attraction of like switching to Uncivilized with the new, publishing with you this time because we wanted to reach those fans in a different way than people that don't have a local comic shop. So
Yeah, for sure. And that's, it's another kind of business model that goes back to the 70s,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
subscription
yeah,
absolutely.
model. You don't, most publishers don't really offer that much anymore. Thank you for being on the Uncivilized Book podcast. Not that it was difficult to get you on here or anything. Um, and yeah, looking forward to the next issue, which is already printed and in transit.
awesome.
That'll be out in end of September, early October. And yeah, thanks again. Keenan, Tom, have a great day, and we'll talk some more in the future.
Yeah,
Cheers.
thank you.
Stay uncivilized.